I think that the people I kill need killing. That's what I think.
You left men hanging from meat hooks.
They got off easy, in my opinion.
You shut up a hospital.
Yeah, nobody got hurt or didn't deserve it.
Yeah. What about you, Frank? What happens the day someone decides you deserve it?
Tell you what, they better not miss.
Today's media of choice was suggested by Evan Prince, a friend of mine who covers a variety of video games, particularly the James Bond games out of late, and has an edgy taste in his entertainment. He's also currently working on heavy metal music in his new music project called Crossglaive, so if you can, please show him some love and support for everything he's aspiring to achieve. With that out of the way, let's get on to the review for The Punisher: One Last Kill. This is a one-off MCU special that's made to tie into the events of Daredevil Born Again as far as I'm aware. When we last saw Frank Castle, he had been in hiding and there had been some perpetuators using his skull symbol, but it wasn't him. Regardless, he was out and about doing what he does, killing off criminals for being criminals, got captured and escaped, and is now once again debatably laying low. For those of you who don't know who the Punisher is, he is Frank Castle, an ex-military soldier who tragically had his family slaughtered before him, and in an immense act of vengeance, goes about as a vigilante killing off criminals. Unlike the Daredevil, aka Matthew Murdock, Frank Castle, aka the Punisher, does not hold back on murdering criminals. It's quite fascinating seeing this one-off special. What I like about this special is that it stands out on its own with or without prior knowledge of the context of previous media that came along. This could very well easily have been made by some really talented fans and it would still work the same way. You know, those fan films across YouTube where they have a simple story, simple premise, and they do it really well as a love letter to the thing they're paying homage to. I get a similar vibe here with this film in particularly. It's essentially The Punisher and the Raid movies combined.
You want to make Raid movies with me, Red? You want to make Raid movies with me, Red? You should have made a sequel to that. That way we can completely complete the Punisher Raid series. Because if you really wanted to make a Punisher Raid series, you should have made a Raid 2 as well.
The premise of this short film is rather simple. The Punisher has led a life of killing off criminals, and in this particular short film, despite laying low, he is reaping the consequences of what he's sown. This is kind of poetic when you think back to that scene where he's debating morality with the Daredevil in season 2 of, well, Daredevil. There's one particular line that came back to my mind as I was watching the short film. The line where Frank Castle expressed that everyone should be free to make their own decisions and that the criminals should be put down. Looking at how this film plays out with all kinds of criminals beating up innocents left, seeing how the events of this short film play out, how a lot of the violence that occurs on the screen is mainly a consequence of what the Punisher has inflicted on the criminals. Whereas with Matthew Murdock, aka the Daredevil, he didn't kill his opponents, and his consequences, while still messy, were a lot cleaner than what Frank Castle has sown. It's quite fascinating to see the fruits of these characters unfold. Of course, you can watch this film without having seen the Daredevil series, or the Daredevil Born Again series, or even the Punisher series. You can go into this as its own thing, since on a superficial basis, what you see is what you get, the Punisher plus the Raid. But there's a surprising amount of rich depth to this slaughterhouse of a movie if you understand the characters. What I like about this short film in particularly is the delving into Frank Castle's psyche. Previous pieces of entertainment, like the Daredevil show, have often delved into the mindsets of characters like Matthew Murdock and Kingpin and Bullseye. Here we get a proper delving into Frank Castle's mind, and due to the choice of his lifestyle and him pushing himself to his limits, he is suffering mentally. You can already tell he's pushing himself to the extreme when He's got bleeding fingers from pushing himself so much with all the exercises that he's doing, pushing himself to keep going even when he's vomiting, having PTSD of his former military comrades, other people he's encountered, and still mourning the deaths of his family. There's no rest in the kind of lifestyle that he's chosen. And this all comes full circle where he reaps the consequences of what he's sown from his lifestyle when he comes across a grieving mother who at first we think is trying to ask him for a favor, but as it turns out, she's seeking vengeance because she was part of a crime family, and the individual who was responsible for killing off the majority of her family members was Frank Castle. So, at the exact same time of the clock when she saw her son die at the knee and foot of Frank Castle, she's going to send a whole group of thugs to slaughter and murder Frank Castle and anyone who gets in the way. So, innocents get hurt, and Frank Castle is once again unleashing his Punisher persona to inflict intense violence on any thug who gets in his way. The story never once endorses the Punisher's violence as an inherently good thing, which, of course, is the whole point of Punisher's character. He's basically Daredevil if he didn't hold back on the violence. And that storytelling is perpetuated by the incredible fight choreography and, of course, the incredible performance from John himself. Also, there's heavy metal music, thematically suitable for Punisher. But it's not just mindless slaughter. There's some great moments of humanization and characterization with various characters in the short film, especially from this one sweet little girl who was able to see the humanity in the Punisher despite all the violence he was inflicting. He did save her family's lives. In the end, much like Daredevil and Kingpin in Season 1 of Daredevil Born Again, Frank Castle finds himself pulled back into his persona as the Punisher for one last kill. This was a surprisingly great short film. And hey, it's one of the most refreshing things that Disney has produced since other Disney Plus contributions in the MCU. The less said about that, the better. What do you think of Punisher First Kill? Let me know down in the comments down below, and thank you Evan Prince for this suggestion. Go subscribe to his channel, show him some love and support. If you liked my covering of this short film, know that throughout this channel I have made a review for the original Daredevil series that originally premiered on Netflix, and I've also made an analysis on that series. I've also done some funny voice acting videos based on Daredevil. Subscribe to the channel for more, and I will get back to you on my verdict on Daredevil Born Again. In the meantime, ScotsThinker signing out.